everyone, and welcome to our show. Today's featured guest is the wonderfully charming Miss Susan B. Anthony. She has time traveled here from the 1900s in order to share some of her story with you today. Enjoy the show.
I traveled many years to come visit you today. I was born in Adams, Massachusetts on February 15, 1820. I am the second of 7 children. When I was 6 years old, my family moved to Bentonville, New York. However, the 1837 Depression caused my father to declare bankruptcy and lose our Bentonville home. He had to take my sisters out of school, and in 1845, when I was 25 years old, the family moved to Rochester, New York. We were right next door to the Erie Canal, and our farm served as a place for anti-slavery meetings to be held. My family was very politically active all throughout my childhood. They worked to end slavery in the abolition movement, and they worked to stop the production of alcohol during the temperance movement. I wanted to speak at a temperance convention, but was denied the opportunity because I am a woman. Was denied the opportunity to speak, it made me realize that women would not be taken seriously until we had the right to vote. This inspired me to start campaigning for women's rights.
It amazes me that your life was full of so many trials and hardships. However, through it all, you have persevered and stayed true to your beliefs. If I may ask, what shaped your views?
Excellent question. If you must know, my parents were mostly the reason why I am who I am. My parents raised me to be independent and outspoken and believed that men and women should study, live, and work as equals. They also taught me that everyone should commit themselves equally to the eradication of cruelty and injustice in the world. I grew up in a religious Quaker family and was taught that alcohol was a sin. When campaigning against alcohol, I was inspired to fight for women's rights because oftentimes women and children are the ones who suffer most in male drunkenness. My parents were both activists in both the temperance movement and the anti-slavery movement. Because of this, from a very young age, I was taught to fight for my ideals, and if I wanted a better world, I'd have to put in the work myself.
Your life has been full of ups and downs, but could you pinpoint some of your most major accomplishments?
Some of my most major accomplishments include working with Elizabeth Cady Stanton to found the National Women's Suffrage Association. Together, we created and produced The Revolution, a weekly publication for women's rights. Even though our newspaper only reached about 3,000 people, it attracted many working-class women to the movement by discussing issues such as discrimination against female workers. We also discussed subjects that were considered to be inappropriate at the time, like sex education, rape, domestic violence, and divorce. Another major accomplishment of mine occurred on November 5, 1827, when I voted illegally in the presidential election. When I got to the voter registration office, I demanded to be allowed to vote under the 14th Amendment. I was initially denied to vote, but after arguing for over an hour and threatening to take the issue to court, myself and 14 other women were registered. I was arrested, and though I tried to fight the charges, I lost in court. I was given a fine of $100, which I never paid. Later on in my life, I worked with Elizabeth Stanton to organize the Women's Loyal National League on May 14, 1863. It was the first national women's public association in the U.S., and we campaigned for the U.S. to add an amendment to the Constitution that would abolish slavery. Together, we collected petitions, and at the time, we achieved the longest petition at 400,000 signatures. It significantly helped the 13th Amendment pass, which disbanded slavery in America. We disbanded the League shortly after, but it inspired a new generation of female activists and leaders. When I died on March 13, 1906, women still couldn't vote. But 14 years later, in 1920, the 19th Amendment was written and gave women the right to vote. In 1978, President Jimmy Carter signed the Susan B. Dollar Act into law, and in 1979, the Treasury Department put my portrait on the $1 coin in recognition for my efforts in giving women equal rights. I was the first woman to be given this honor. Altogether, the U.S. Mint produced 888,842,452 Susan B. Anthony coins.
Had a baby, she called him Tiny Tim. She put him in the bathtub to see if he could swim. He drank up all the water, he ate up all the soap. He tried to swallow the bathtub, but it wouldn't go down his throat. Call for the doctor! Call for the nurse! Call for the lady with the alligator purse! Mumps, said the doctor. Measles, said the nurse. Vote, said the lady with the alligator purse.
That's me.
Hi, Susan B. Anthony. Tell us about your purse.
I was famous for carrying an alligator purse. My purse became a symbol for women's rights and women's voting rights. It served more as a sturdy briefcase rather than a stylish purse, but it got the job done. Children added to the famous jump roping song, "Vote," said the lady with the alligator purse, after I started my campaign to allow women to vote in government elections.
Miss Anthony, though we have greatly enjoyed hearing about your early life and accomplishments, could you tell us about the end of your life?
When I died on March 13th, 1906, women still didn't have the right to vote, and I felt that though I had worked my entire life for women's rights, I had failed. But 14 years later, in 1920, I saw that my efforts had not gone forgotten and women were given the right to vote. Without my efforts to create more political freedom for women, women might still not have the right to vote in the 21st century. Throughout my life, I have campaigned for women's rights, collected signatures for petitions, spoke at meetings, lobbied to be the state legislator of New York, and much more. Because of my efforts, women in the present and the future will have more opportunities like voting rights and good positions in the workplace. Together, I, along with millions of other women, have raised awareness to this issue, and I hope that future generations will continue to raise awareness with me. Thank you all for coming to my show, and if you want to learn more, come visit my museum in Adams, Massachusetts.
That concludes our show for today, and I hope you all enjoyed and will give Nia and Grace a good grade on their history project. Extra thanks to Dr. Umaya for providing music for this show. Goodbye!